Right, when it comes to going faster on our bikes, many of us will automatically think of all the hard training and the hard work that's required to make ourselves fitter and stronger. However, there are also a number of other ways that we can make ourselves faster on the bike, which actually require very little physical exertion. And that is what we call free speed or marginal gains. Now, when we normally mention these terms, you'll probably think of aerodynamics, but it also includes the maintenance of our bikes and how smoothly our bike is running. So today, I'm actually gonna be running us through a number of free speed maintenance tips. Right, first up, we have the pedals. Now, given that these are our only fixed contact point with the bike, it is amazing how many people neglect these, and also the cleats that clip into those, which I have. These are a particularly bad example of a set of cleats. Now, in terms of the cleats, it's advised that you go for a set of cleats that have a small amount of float in them. That's to help avoid any niggles or injuries and allow that little extra movement you might need, all whilst being firm enough to allow the best power transfer through the pedals. Too much float though, which is unnecessary for yourself, can be detrimental to performance. And as we wear the cleats more, we use them, we walk around on them, they can wear out, and that can increase the amount of movement through them. So make sure you keep on top of those and check them and replace them when you need to. Same way, you need to make sure that your pedals are tensioned correctly. Now, the tension is normally there for when we're clipping in and out of our pedals to make sure that we can do that easily enough. However, if it's too loose or too slack, then you're going to experience similar issues to your cleats being worn out and too much movement there. So if you want to tighten them, then just go to this bolt, which is normally positioned towards the back of the pedals, and you can just tighten it nice and easily. Now, another thing that I've experienced in the past is issues with the bearings or a little bit of play in the pedals. Now, if you do experience either of these, that is also going to be detrimental to performance. So if you need to actually tighten the pedals, you've experienced any play, then normally it's either a ring spanner or an adjustable spanner or a specific tool for the pedals, and you can just fit that around there and tighten up nice and easily. Okay, I know I bang on about this loads here on the channel, but keeping your bike clean is imperative for free speed. Not only does it just look fantastic in your garage and give you that little psychological boost, which is always really nice, it also just runs more smoothly and efficiently when it's clean as compared to a filthy bike. But I will be the first to admit that I'm not always the best at keeping my bike clean. So if there's one thing that you really do want to make sure that you stay on top of and keep clean, it is your chain, because any dirt or grime within that chain is going to drastically reduce the efficiency and performance of it. And not to mention also just the components on your bike that chain is running through. Now, it's actually Friction Facts actually proved that your chain, if it's dirty, can cost you upwards of 5 watts when you're riding at 250 watts. And obviously that increases more as you ride harder. So I was a little bit late to the party on this one, but something that can help you massively is a chain cleaner like this one. So this is the chain gang from Park Tool, and there's similar ones out there. Just fill it with some fluid here. And it's just so easy to fit onto that chain. Clean that quickly after a ride when you're super tired and feeling lazy, and you get it out looking like new. Right, whilst we're mentioning lubricants, actually your choice of lubricant on your chain can either cost you or save you watts. Now, a chain, or a typical chain with a 53 tooth chainring setup, can have somewhere in the region of 40,000 moving and mechanical parts. So you can start to understand why actually having a clean chain, and a well lubricated chain for that matter, can save you upwards of 5 watts. And also being probably one of the best value upgrades that you can give to your bike, all whilst actually increasing the longevity of the components of your bike. Now, in terms of the lubricant that you use, well, probably the best out there is actually to have your whole chain dipped and coated and fully immersed in a wax substance. Now, I appreciate not all of you are going to head out there and do that. It's a bit of a faff. So the best, or next best, is to get a high grade dry lubricant. Now, a dry lubricant can be dripped onto the chain and then it will dry out, leaving a waxy residue. Now, personally, I'm quite a big fan of these ceramic lubricants like this one here. Now, they're quite a big advancement in recent years. Now, they just contain nanoparticles that actually coat the chain and they protect the chain, therefore allowing less friction and improving the efficiency of the chain. So just a nice drip-on substance, really easy to use. But how about the tyre pressure? Well, gone are the days of just whacking your tyres up to the maximum recommended tyre pressure that you'll find on the sidewall, as I used to. Now, if you speak to a lot of the pros these days, you'll be amazed just how low they're running their tyre pressures. And the reason being that if you have your tyres pumped up too high, it's just not going to compress enough. And so you're going to have quite a harsh and uncomfortable ride. But most importantly, you're actually going to reduce the amount of rubber that is in contact with the road, and therefore you can have less grip on the road. Now, what pressure you should actually pump your tyres up depends on a few things. You've got your rider weight, the weight of the bike, and even the size of the tyre. I'm not going to run through each size and weight individually, we'll be here all day, but as a very, very rough guide, a 23mm tyre should be pumped up to around 100 psi, a 25mm tyre somewhere around 85 psi, and then a 28mm tyre somewhere between 65 to 70 psi. As I say, very rough guide just to make sure that you're not wildly off the mark. Now, obviously it does depend on your weight, the road surface, the road conditions. And personally, I run 25mm tyres and used to run them around 95 psi. But going by sort of the more recent and up-to-date advice, I now run them at around 85 psi, which is far more comfortable. The bike isn't bouncing on the road, the tyre just conforms to the road, all whilst actually not increasing the rolling resistance. In fact, I've actually got more grip from the tyre on the road. Okay, you also want to make sure that your gears are running smoothly and they're all correctly adjusted. If your chain's jumping around whilst you're riding along, then if you think about it, every time that chain jumps, that's a moment when you're not able to apply force or power through the pedal. So that is time lost. But even if the chain isn't jumping around and perhaps it's just not seating correctly within the teeth, then that is also going to cost you hugely in terms of efficiency. Now, if it is doing that, it's often a sign that the chain's worn, it's overstretched and needs replacing, or just a slight adjustment of the gears is needed. Now, personally, I will always check over my gears before a race, partly because I'm often dropping race wheels into my bike, so it needs that. If you're doing the same, then I suggest you take a look at one of our previous videos, which I'll throw to the end of this one, and that'll run you through some of the basics with that. Alternatively, if you want, you can just drop it into a bike shop, a local bike shop, and they'll do a once through and make sure that it's all race ready for you. Okay, this next one isn't one that I hear people talk about all that often, but it's a fairly obvious one in my eyes. Now, the jockey wheels, which I have one here, they're the two cogs that are positioned on the rear derailleur, are fairly important moving parts. They have a tendency to get quite clogged up given that they're quite exposed down here, so they do need a bit of TLC from time to time. Now, you can just leave them on the bike and clean them there fairly quickly. However, if you want to, you can very easily just remove them by just unscrewing a quick bolt, taking them off and doing a bit more of a thorough clean on them. Now, you can see on my one here, it needs a bit of cleaning. But also, if you want to go a little bit deeper into this, if you've been riding in fairly gross conditions, you can often just remove the dust cover very simply like this, clean into there and where this bearing is on mine, and then just drop a little bit of lube in there after, reassemble and pop it back on the bike. Okay, finally, this is a bit of a silly one, but make sure your bolts are tight. And honestly, I have lost count of the amount of times that I've heard people cost themselves a race or a good result simply because they forgot to tighten a bolt. And this is particularly important if you're traveling out to a race, perhaps catching a flight where you've had to disassemble your bike, reassemble it at the other end. I've heard people's handlebars slipping, aero bars popping out, you name it. Now, this isn't necessarily free speed, but hopefully it's going to prevent you from losing unnecessary time. Now, if you did enjoy today's video, please do hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see any more videos from GTN, you can click on the globe and subscribe to the channel. If you have any other suggestions, please do drop them in the comment section below. And if you'd like to see that drivetrain maintenance video and how to prep your chain and whatnot, then you can see that by clicking down here. And if you'd like to see how to cycle faster for free with Matthew Bottrell, then you can see that by clicking just up there.